Everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good something, depending on the time of the day you're watching this. Uh, yes.
Hello, everybody. Good
Show.
morning,
Shut up,
good
YouTube.
afternoon, good evening.
Shut up. Public service announcement, user, wear your fucking mask. Don't be an idiot. Please don't kill people. Blah blah blah. I'm going so fast because Phil has an hour and it's the day for him to answer your question. So wear your fucking mask. Don't be assholes, please. And if you don't like to wear your mask, leave this channel out. Fuck you. Out. But we go. Hello, Phil.
Hello, how are you?
You're with coffee. I'm with.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's something tasty and alcoholic probably. Anyway, everything okay?
Yeah, a little tired, but I'm always a little tired. Working, my big complaint this week, other than the world, is that the Procreate app put out an update
Oh,
about a week ago,
oh.
and my iPad is crashing about every 5 minutes. I don't know. I mean, I have contacted support. I've yelled at them on social media. They know about it.
Oh,
Many people are having a similar problem, but it's been crazy trying to work where I'm drawing and then it just crashes. Drawing.
oh shit. You can't go back to the prior version.
No. Apple doesn't let you do that.
Well, if you erase the
I
last
would
one,
have to. I could. I think delete the last one and then
yeah,
bring the other one back. I'm just not. Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. You know that if those cities at Procreate have put out an update that is not ready for the new operating systems, which will that sounds a lot like Adobe and Photoshop, by the way.
Everyone I've talked to, thank God, has had whatever platform they work on, they have had some problem with a bad update.
Just erase it, my friend, and go back to look at the version number and just grab the one before, and that's the way.
I'm going to ask a very ignorant question. So does that mean I have to save all the work and then once I delete the app, I have got to get it all back?
Are you saving already? It's in files or in any other?
Yeah, no, it's all saved, but I'm just asking, is that how I just realized, is that what happens when you delete the app and go back to the old one? Then do you take the saved files?
No, the save files are separated. I mean, that's why they created a files folder. But anyway, you have an iPad Pro, right?
Yes. Here's the interesting thing, though, with this app upgrade, I can't save the artwork into files because the app crashes.
Do you have an external hard drive?
I've Dropbox
or a pen drive, whatever.
I'm saving everything in Dropbox.
Okay, so then it's safe. They can't take it away from Dropbox. So
right. But it is interesting where my one fear is trying to undo what has been done and then losing work like unexpectedly.
Yeah, well, if you have a copy on Dropbox, just to be safe, make another copy on a hard drive, on a external hard drive, or a pen drive, or whatever, and you have 2 copies, and then you're safe. But if it's crashing on you and you can't work, possibly the only way is just to erase and download a former version.
Yeah, because this has been now over 8 or 9 days. Because they update.
They haven't fixed the fucking update in 9 days. Jesus Christ. They sound more like Adobe more and more.
Yes, and I think more and more you're correct, because before this it was seamless.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a good work experience, and now I'm just like ready to gouge out my eyes.
You need to go back to the last one. Anyway, we said it was fun questions today, so
okay,
let's go there. Guys, by the way, guys, if any of you knows any solution for what Phil just said about Procreate and all that, just send it our way. I'll tell him every help you can have, it will be well received. Just don't send us porn pictures or porn links. That's not. Just send the right link, not stupid jokes. So Anyway, Martin Lozano says, "Hello. How can you tell us about your Wonder Woman project with Kelly Sue DeConnick?" That was so obvious it was going to be the first question.
Yes. So I can say that we are working on it. The thing I like to tell people is that when that book was announced, there had not been, I think we had one piece of art and Kelly had not written the script. And when I took that book, I said, whatever you do not announce this until we have some work.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, about 4 days later, they announced it in the Hollywood Reporter, which has made it seem like we were working on it longer than we were.
Yeah.
And Kelly Sue and I are very slow, and which is why I told them, whatever you do, don't do this. And of course they did. So what I can say is we're still working on it. We want it to be released around the Wonder Woman movie sequel. We're not sure when that will be because the sequel keeps getting moved. I can say two things about it. I've never worked so hard on a book. The artwork has never been so beautiful. I'm so excited about that artwork. But I did not expect it to take me this long. I'm super slow, and I did not think it was going to take me this long. Part of that was because I'm drawing it. It's my first all digital project. So a lot of learning curves. Another part of it is so much redesign. I've shared a little bit of it online. The Amazons are getting redesigned. The gods are I think each god has 6 looks in the first volume alone. So that's like 14 gods with like different looks and so it's just a lot of design work. So it's just taken a very long time. But we're still working on it. We believe it's coming. Again, I think the Wonder Woman movie sequel will also determine when it comes out.
Yeah, that's like you being you, just crazier.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about detailed and all that, and character with a lot of shit like that. That's you. That's what you usually do.
It is very me. The thing I like the most about it, or I like so much about it, but I mean, certain panels will take me a day to draw. Like, I feel like almost every panel has taken me a day. And it is a terrible way to work for money because I'm making no money on it, but I don't really care because it's something I'm very proud of. I would like to say that Kelly Sue's script inspired me, and this is not bullshit, I swear to God. So it is the first script in years that has inspired me in the way that it, like, I'm working so hard because I want to honor the script that she has written. And so I used to say that my favorite writers were Grant Morrison and Warren Ellis to work from. Like, I love scripts. And now I put her in that pile because she just, it's like she writes for me. And I'm such a weird little idiosyncratic artist. So to encounter writers that know how to write to me and communicate to me is a gift. And it is such, to me, it is very profound work. So I feel very good to be working on it.
Amazing. So let me see. Paula Ventimiglia, hola. Sebastián Cancinos, hi. Paula Ventimiglia, please tell him I admire his work very much and thank you for all the work he did in Wonder Woman. I am a big fan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Locke from Howard. It was double difficult for you, your eras in Wonder Woman, because you were also a writer. I mean, you were a writer and artist.
Well, yes, it is. I think I am on record as saying that run was so bizarre because I was just going to come on and do 12 issues and tell one big story. But the year I decided to come on, there was a lot of editorial turnover, 2 crossovers, and a lot of pressure for me to get on and get off the book so that Greg Rucka could become the writer. And I remember getting this book and thinking, this is a gift. I will never have this again, and trying to juggle what I'd wanted to do with also these editorial needs that I didn't think would be an issue. I mean, I was fighting about the color of the Amazon's bracelets. It was so bizarre. So anyway, what made that run difficult was not doing both. It was it was the first time I'd ever really had to work around editorial needs where they were constantly inserting themselves in the book. And the one thing I always talk about is pace. My original 12 issues was all going to be about Wonder Woman and her mother. But then we had to kill her mother off in this crossover halfway in the run, which meant all those stories suddenly got pushed into a much smaller space. And then because we had the two crossovers and the events of September 11th, everything was just impacted. So the hardest part about me going back into looking at that book is just I can feel the editorial insertion and how disruptive it was to the overall flow. A couple things, stories I've told many, many times, but I do like to say, when we found out we had to kill Hippolyta, I had to fight to tell that event in my book because the editor-in-chief had decided it was a Superman event and she should die in Superman's book. And at the time, even the Superman writers are like, that's ridiculous. It's her supporting character. She should die in that book. And so the Superman writers were incredibly supportive of me during the Our Worlds at War crossover and the work I was doing. And they fought on my behalf. And it was a really lovely work experience, that part, because I felt like I had the team behind my back. And those issues ended up being some of the best of the crossover. And it was all in spite of the editor-in-chief at the time, not because of. And it was a real learning experience about how to navigate and try to work with the decision-making from above. And I do have to say, I've never actually, and all these years later, it still throws me when someone here asks for a creative decision that I know down the road isn't going to pan out, but they need it because that day another executive said, we need Wonder Woman in blue. Okay, this makes no sense. But so I guess what's interesting to me is short and long-term vision when it comes to publishing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very long answer to say that book was both a blessing and a curse. It was a dream come true. It was very difficult to work on, not because of writing or schedule, but because of the amount of editorial interference. And then again, 9/11.
Yeah. But it was also, as you said, what I know you, and knowing you, I know what you take of it is the moment when you realize that all the creators from the other books were telling you, no, you're right, they're wrong.
Yeah,
supporting you. You guys as creators were all supportive of each other, saying, fuck you to the guy above, right?
Joe Kelly, particularly, who was going to write, it was his job to write this death scene, was incredibly supportive of me and very, very good to me, and worked with me and fought on my behalf, and we worked together. And we had co-written the Wonder Woman Day in the Life issue, which is still very well regarded. I think it ends up on a lot of top 10 lists, which makes me very happy. But yeah, that was the peer support was great. I'm not sure everyone always gets that, but it was really nice to have. And again, the end result is great. Like I reread that Death of Hippolyta issue. I'm like, this is really good. Like, I'm surprised at how well it holds up even to this day.
It does. It's an amazing one.
Yeah.
Did you want to give continuity in your time on Wonder Woman to what George Perez had established, and also what did you decide to change that it didn't work from George's era?
Oh, so back then, it's amazing. It was 20 years ago when I got this job. My goal, a big problem with Wonder Woman has always been consistency. I don't know if there are other characters like this, where every time someone would come on, they would change everything about the character.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can think of something in superhero comics where there's something similar, but
no, not that obvious. Never that obvious as in Wonder Woman.
Like,
Maybe you could have, I don't know, go to the camp times with Batman, but that's on a specific time.
Right.
Superman has always been Superman. I don't know. As with Wonder Woman, that is that every writer just changes her.
Changes, right? And so part of this was clearly George Perez was my great inspiration. He's the reason I have a job. So, but also in rereading his run, I thought there were important things that he did, explaining what her mission was, who her enemies were. Lots of things that I feel got nebulous or were no longer clear in those books. And I really just wanted to go back and establish, my memory was I wanted to establish why she does what she does, reestablish her rogues gallery, sort of cement her supporting cast, and really address her relationship with her mother. Those were my goals, I believe.
And then they made you kill her.
And then I had to kill her. Right. So, but the one thing that made me really happy, and I was that George Perez called me. So when I reintroduced the new version of Paradise Island, because we had to destroy Paradise Island in that crossover, it was so funny because that was something else I was told I would have to do, was destroy Paradise Island. And it's like, okay. Was that George Perez called me and to congratulate me because he felt it was the perfect culmination of his run. That's what he wanted for the Amazons and for that island. And that was an amazing experience because we don't chat a lot. I see, now that we're not going to conventions, I don't see him at all.
Mm-hmm.
But to get a phone call from George Perez to say like that's exactly what I wanted. Now, like, was really touching.
Yeah. That's gotta be amazing.
Yeah.
Martin Lozano asks, what character? Okay, what's the character you've always wanted to draw at Marvel or at DC, but you've never been able to?
I'm trying to think if there's anyone I've never drawn.
That's a good one.
I will look back. People will share those big group shots I've done, and I will have forgotten that I drew sometimes character like, oh, sorry, I drew Blue Beetle 3 times, and I have no memory of it. Just a team that I would love to play with is the New Warriors, because I love those versions of those characters. And I think I'm trying to think now who that's actually just a team I adore. Mm-hmm. And my first sample pages in like 1990 were New Warriors, maybe 1992 or something. I don't remember when that book came out. Were New Warriors pages. So that would be actually super cool. But I feel like I have drawn just about everyone. Though I have a soft spot for the 80s Legion of Superheroes. And so people always ask me to come back to the Legion, and A, I think that book would never come out, but B, I like a certain version of those characters, and it would be fun to return to them.
Mm-hmm. What about the Eternals?
Oh, I just did a cover for them. I just did one of the variant covers for the book, and it was actually it's colored beautifully. It's an homage to a Renaissance painting of the Olympian gods. And I got to draw 10 of them or so. Many of them are being redesigned for the new series, so they didn't have all the redesigns done. So I was able to draw all the ones that they had redesigned. So that was super, super fun. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I'm sure that there are other character. I feel like I've just had the good opportunity to draw just about everyone because of those group shots.
Okay. Wait, that takes me to which character would you like to write?
Oh,
because you just said, in group shots you've all drawn almost everybody, but you've never written most of them. So
no, because here's the thing. I have said this many times. Forgive me for repeating myself. I don't have a great desire to write everything. I think I'm an okay writer, not terrible, not the best. I think I write things typically that I want to draw, not because I have a great idea for the Fantastic Four. And the other thing I have a couple of projects I pitched to Comixology, and there's one project I'm really looking forward to, and I really hope that works out.
Mhm.
But it may, because I think it could be very cool. But I generally am fine with, like, when I see what Kelly Sue did in Historia, I think I could never have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not that good. So the only thing I'm interested in writing are characters that have such a specific point of view. One of my great sadnesses going back to editorial interference was about Superwoman, and that we had plotted like 24 issues of that book. And I was starting to understand that because some of the other books were bi-weekly, they were getting to events faster than I could. And then it came down that they were going to, like, that book was so much about the rebirth meets New 52 Superman, right? Like it was, and then we found out, me by issue 4 or 5, that they were redoing the continuity again, and that my first set of stories would be wiped out of continuity, and that this was before I was even done with my second arc, and that I would have to come up with a new origin for Superwoman. So I was going to tell this story, and then none of it was going to matter because it was going to be, because of other events, it was going to be wiped out. And I was going to have to start over by issue 8 or something like that. It was just like, what are you talking about? So I realized I just don't have the heart. Literally, like, I put a lot of myself into these projects, and I had such a plan, and it just got blown apart. And that's happened to me so often. And I don't think I'm good. I'm so conflict averse. I don't want to fight my editor-in-chief. I don't want to fight my editor. Like, so I don't know if I have the heart to write in mainstream superhero comic the way I used to. So anyway, I do hope that and the Comixology project is so me that I feel like nobody else could do it. But for the most part, I like letting folks like Grant and Kelly and Warren do, because they're just so good, and I would rather draw that.
Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense. Paula Ventimiglia asks, she would like to know, what are your artistic influences, aside of Geoff Perez, of course?
The biggest one, believe it or not, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, is Ryoki Ikegami, who drew The Crying Freeman.
Yes.
So I literally have one of his books here, like literally the pages are falling out because I looked through it so much.
Mm-hmm.
That is, that stuff is astounding to me. The other stuff that I've been really influenced by in my work lately, and from comics, is Brian Hitch's The Ultimates, Garcia Lopez on Twilight, and he actually drew, nobody remembers this, a very brief story in the New Teen Titans with Wonder Girl and the Greek gods, and that is like, I love that work, and it was a throwaway story, but it's so beautiful. The design of it, anything Garcia Lopez does.
Yes.
And then I'm currently awed by Jorge Jimenez.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is amazing to me is the track, like the exponential growth he's gone through in these past 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely.
Is mind blowing to me. And so I have to say, when I see young artists, or when I say, I mean, he's not that young, but like meaning not that new, he's been around for a few years, but when I see that explosion and that transformation, that thrills me, because what excites me now is like who's coming up behind us and what they're doing to the industry and how they're transforming it. And I really do think like what he's doing is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Because just to wrap the thought, Pepe Larraz, of course, is amazing, and Mahmoud is amazing. I'm so sorry. I'm being flooded with like who I tend to be most amazed by people who do what I cannot. I'm less interested in people who draw like me than I am by those who I feel are so much more advanced than I am. Like that, like who I'm like, when I look at work, even Adam Hughes, for example, who I've known for 30 years, and I'm like, how do you do that? That's the work that I find inspiring.
Of course.
Yeah. So all those artists that I listed are generally people who I don't understand how they do what they do. And that's the stuff that I find mind-blowing.
In Jose Luis's case, Garcia Lopez, he's just magical. The guy's magical. Just I don't even think about it. With Jose Luis, it's like, yeah, that's perfection. That's magic. Let it be.
It's truly. I mean, it's truly magical. And I think so. One thing to get very nerdy specific, the thing that I really love in comic books is emotional storytelling. When the acting, right? And so what I love about Garcia Lopez is he's such a quiet, reserved, humble man.
Yes, absolutely.
But those characters, when they're interacting, and it can be in a Western, in a superhero soap opera, there's such life to their interactions. Everything is heightened to almost 11.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the storytelling is so clear and the emotional exchange is so clear between them. And I love that it comes from this beautiful, humble, quiet man, right? Yeah. So he is not like, as long as I've known him, he is nothing like the characters he draws, which makes it even more interesting.
Absolutely. Let me see. I heard, Locke Frank Howard says, I heard that you insisted a lot to do Infinite Crisis. Was it difficult for you to get the job? Probably was a very crazy year to try and coordinate that a book that was so big.
Yeah, Infinite Crisis was interesting. Apparently, I was the choice I lobbied for that book, but then later was told I was the choice for it. I have weird memories of it because I think we started so late. I think the first script came in about 5 months late. And when I finished that issue, I knew, and I told them at the end of the issue, it's probably the most honest I've ever been with an editor. I was like, I'm not, and this is back when I was slow, but not super slow. Like I could actually still generate. I remember saying like, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, these are oversized 30-page books, and we're starting 5 months late, and they're just getting bigger and bigger. And I said, we're going to need a battle plan. And that's when we just started divvying up the work so that certain scenes would go to George, certain scenes would go to Jerry or Ivan. And I remember being highly disappointed because when I first got the job, I was doing all these designs, what Metropolis looked like, what Gotham City looked like, even ways to differentiate between Earth 1 and Earth 2 Superman. I think it was Cary Grant was my model for Earth 2 Superman. Like, I got very excited about this stuff. And then I realized, they don't care about any of this. And by I say they, I mean the higher ups. They just wanted that book out, and they just wanted to move it. And so, as someone who did care about that stuff, it was a little disheartening to realize, this doesn't matter to them at all. So it's an interesting thing because we were just working so fast. I don't remember a lot about that book. I look at pages and I'm like, I don't remember drawing that.
Wow.
Because again, I remember like the script for issue 4 was so late, and because there was debate about which characters were going to die, and it was and how, and it was so strange. And then I think the other interesting thing was at some point Infinite Crisis became a Superman book, and what excited me about it originally, just from a plot standpoint, was that Batman, Wonder Woman had these really interesting beats. Nightwing was going to die, Wonder Woman had killed Maxwell Lord, and that all kind of like started to fall back as it became this Superman-centric book. And so the stuff that I was most interested in kind of
disappeared?
Not disappeared, but it just became much less important.
Yeah.
That said, the thing I will always be grateful, like Infinite Crisis changed my life. Like it put me on the map. I won awards. I got a lot of money. I have this thing that a lot of other people don't have, right? Like people still come to me and say, this is why I read comics. So I feel like very few artists get an opportunity to work like that, and or on anything of that magnitude. And so I'm super grateful for it. I just don't remember much of it.
Working so fast is normal.
Yeah.
How did you react? Be honest. How did you react when they told you we are going to kill Dick Grayson?
I thought it was brilliant for one reason. Actually, for a couple of reasons. One, because I didn't, at the time, and maybe even now, I don't think there was a more beloved character in the DC universe who touched as many people, Titans, Justice League, Outsiders, like everyone, all those characters knew and loved Dick Grayson, right? Yeah. So I was just like, to me, that was profound. Secondly, there was going to be this beat where Batman finally like picks up a gun and threatens to kill Alexander Luthor. And I was like, what would motivate Batman other than the death of Dick Grayson, right? To me, it was like perfect. And then Wonder Woman had her moment where she's like, don't do it, right? Like so much of the emotion of that hinged on the fact that Batman had lost his son.
Yeah.
So I was all for it because for purely emotional reasons, not because I don't like Dick Grayson, but because I thought it would have been the Flash or Supergirl moment. And it was weird because I know that Superboy was offered up instead. And while that, like, I know a lot of people like that, I also knew behind the scenes that they'd already planned on how to bring him back. So it's just like, oh, this isn't going to matter anyway. So I was all for Dick Grayson's death for the sole reason that emotionally, I think it would have been so impactful.
Okay. I hate you. No, I'm kidding. Let me see. Sebastian Cantino says it's famous that you designed the move from Aqualad to from Aqualad to Tempest. Aside of Tempest, which other character would you like to redesign? Aside of the many you have already redesigned.
No, I was thinking, I mean, like, it's, again, like, for me, the characters, I feel like most characters have a perfect design already. I feel like for many of the big characters, you can be like, Storm, she's got 2 or 3 great looks. Like, I'm just trying to think, like, who doesn't have at least one look that is amazing? So and like, even for example, for characters like Superman, there's always these debates about redesigning Superman. Oh, and I just saw this fantastic Spider-Man, I think by Mike McCone, and it had a slightly redesigned version of that costume that was beautiful. And I feel like there's nothing that I need to redesign because I've seen it done better by other artists. Like, I always joke that my redesigns are often, they come from fashion, not superhero. So there's been this wave in the past 15 years, I think because of Ultimates, where characters are put in military clothing. It's essentially like militarized versions of superhero clothes. And I tend to work from a fashion perspective, avant-garde fashion. And I think there's a real sort of like, people don't get that. And it was very funny, like all those years ago when I redesigned Donna Troy's costume, and it was simply her red costume colored black. But people just, they didn't, they were very confused by that costume. I'm like, it's her Wonder Girl costume. You just put black ink on it and some stars. But because it wasn't like militarized, it wasn't meant for hardcore battle.
Yeah.
They were constantly looking for ways to make it more battle ready.
Yeah.
And that's an interest, like, I don't have that instinct because in my head, so many of these characters they're not real.
Yeah.
So I don't need them to look like they are in the military. I need them to look kind of like fantasy.
Now that reminds me, I had Eric Larson on Friday, and he was ranting exactly about this. Like when they militarize suits and all that, he was saying, let the movies do that. We have, and he's like, some people tells me, oh, that shoot is gonna fall because it has no seams, and I'm like, it's not. They're not real, and it's superhero comics. That's how it works. If you want something else, go to the movies. Don't let them tell us how to do our work. It's supposed to be the other way around. We are supposed to guide them.
Yes.
And he was ranting, and I was like, yeah, absolutely.
I had a great conversation. A fan was like going on and on about things like, well, I think it might have been Wonder Woman. I was like, well, her boobs are going to fall out of her costume. I'm like, I've never drawn that in all my life. And if her boobs ever did fall out of the costume, they would be edited. If it's on the comics or the movie, we would edit it. Like, you're never going to see that.
Nope.
But in their head, I think so many fans now, particularly, but also designers are thinking, what is the movie version going to look like? So they're designing for that. And I remember also designing a costume many years ago and being asked if it was cosplayable. Would people be able to cosplay this costume? And I was like, that is so fascinating that is now becoming a part of the design, right? Like, can real people wear this costume?
Yeah, but it doesn't have, that again is the same thing. It doesn't have to guide your creative choices.
I agree.
If it is, it is. If it's not, so be it. You're a creative. You don't create for other people to do that.
Right.
Even if of course, you love them to do it. You love to see people wearing your Donna Troy suit. Absolutely, I understand. But then it's like, but I didn't create it to see people cosplay it, right?
Right. That said, so when Kelly Sue and I introduced all these new Amazons, I was designing them, all of those costumes. I mean, they're all incredibly elaborate costumes. And each one is really customized. Like, no one's in generic armor. But we do hope, like, one of our dreams is to see a group of women dressed like that, right? Because, like, I actually think that would be very cool. But they are incredibly elaborate costumes. They don't make a lot of, that's not entirely true. Some of them don't make a lot of sense. There's one particularly with like this frill of gazelle horns that I love. And but like, does it make a lot of sense? Probably not. But it looks amazing.
They are myths. They are.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to make fucking sense.
Yes. But for those people who are worried about that, we also have other characters who make perfect sense. Who are
Why should they worry?
No. I'm just saying, because some people do.
Yeah, I know.
But like, because these Amazons were created by the gods, but we have other characters and other things that were not and are much more human and real and historically accurate. And like some of, like, for example, we have some Amazons from Athena's, like who worship Athena. But the armor is based on that very ornate European, I think primarily French armor from about the 15th to the 17th century. Highly decorated.
Yeah, Baroque and all that, yeah.
Right. So clearly like they didn't have French armor in ancient Greece, and I was like, I don't care.
Yeah,
because it looks great. But for people worried about accuracy, there are whole other secondary characters that are entirely period accurate and whatever.
yeah. That's the joke I always make about Braveheart. The Mel Gibson movie. People say, oh, they didn't have that blue, or they didn't have those colors and I'm like, no, they didn't. And Braveheart William Wallace wasn't an important character at all. That was Rob Roy. William Wallace was a nobody. The guy who they have in the movie 5 minutes, the king of Scotland. I don't remember the name now. That was the important character. But I don't care. It's a fucking movie.
Right.
It's not a documentary. So same thing. I love when Marvel embraced Loki's helmet or Hela's helmet. And I was like, yes. Why would I care if it's realistic or not? It's a superhero movie.
It's also it's about Asgardian gods. It is not about Captain America.
Yep.
These people are like other dimensional beings who can have a crazy hat. It's okay.
Yes.
But also, as we saw, like you just said with Hela, it totally worked. It looks fabulous. Like everyone loves it.
I think that actress can pull off an Enoch she wants. I Came Blanchett. Give me a potato net. I will wear it and it'll look fabulous.
Right. Oh my God. 100%.
Okay, let's go with the next one. How Fabio Hernandez asks, how is your creative process? Where do you find the inspiration when you don't know what to do? He drinks coffee.
I drink a lot of coffee. So friends and I have been talking about this, particularly in this crazy political climate, because my productivity, which was never great, that's not true. In the past few years has not been great, but post, election has just been like, it is so hard to concentrate, to focus. Yeah. So what I find inspires me now is the work of other people, is stumbling onto great design. I know it sounds crazy. The other thing that's been very interesting is like lockdown, living in New York City, living in New York City, I could go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art or wander the streets, or like we have much less access to visual inspiration. Yeah. But like this morning on Twitter, I shared some of Adam Hughes' covers and they're just boggling. And so I do see that when my peers are still making work or have made this beautiful work,
it's
my friend always says, if you sneeze when you're saying something, it means what you're saying is true. So I'm going to believe that.
Okay.
But what inspires me now is the work of other people. And what particularly inspires me, there are artists like Jorge Jimenez or Jen Bartel that are making this work that I feel like is the future. And that inspires me, right? Like to work as hard, to remember what it was like to work that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see young people sort of changing the industry, that inspires me, because like what I want to do is sort of do my work and then get out of the way and let them come in and sort of take it where it's going to be taken.
Yes.
Also provide, like when I look at his story, as long as it's taken me, I'm like, this shit's good. Like, I'm excited to be a part of that wave, even on the sides, right? And like, it's nice to be reminded that I still have something to say.
You have a lot to say. Don't be an idiot. Yeah. Don't make me mad at you. You have a lot to say.
Just saying, I know I do, but it's when I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a reason that this is taking me this long. There's a reason I'm a grandpa in this business now.
Okay. And what about the classic guys? He says also Perez, Kirby, Chaikin, and the like. Do they inspire you too?
Old Perez still, like, there's a period of time that Perez is working that continues to boggle my mind. I'm one of those people that is a fan of chunks of work,
mm-hmm.
Which is weird because I know people are completists and they like, and for me, it is always like a time where I feel like the artist, like George Perez did Crisis when he was 31 years old. That is I was older on Infinite Crisis than he was on Crisis. Like, that is crazy to me that there were, but yeah, so the classic artists that inspire me, I think the work that they were doing at a certain time is what inspires me. And the reason is intellectually because they were at their most potent creatively, probably didn't have a lot of editorial constraints, and they were just doing the work, right? And it's a really good reminder that if you put that stuff aside, you can create like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the problems for me the past decade was trying to figure out where I worked, because it took me a long time to realize this. The leadership change at DC meant an aesthetic change that I wasn't built for. So I was constantly trying to figure out where I fit in that world, because everything I loved that I had worked on no longer existed, right? Like it had been all wiped out. The characters I was associated with had all been wiped out. And there was an aesthetic that I just didn't connect to. So it took a long time, longer than it should have, to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out where I belonged, and what I had to say. The point of that being in a line that was very almost antithetical to everything I had done.
Yeah.
Which is why they just say just survive, because it all, like, just keep going, because it'll all come back eventually.
Yeah, that's the thing we always say about comics. The easy thing is to get in. That then you have to survive it, man. You have to survive. And he was asking, what's your creative process? How's your creative?
The process is the practical process is when I get a script. I often I print a script. They're harder for me to read on a screen, and then I often start drawing notes on the script itself. And then often what I will do is I will take a sheet of paper. I still do layouts mostly on paper at the size that a book will be printed. So the graphic novels are 8.5 by 11. Comic books are a little smaller. So for the graphic novel, I broke the graphic novel down literally by taping pages together and drawing on those pages just to see roughly the scale of the figures. Once that's done, with Historia, for example, a lot of the early work, I do have pencil breakdowns. I would scan those breakdowns and then ink them digitally in Procreate, the app. So my process is read the script, do kind of doodles, break down visually on paper the pages, and I always do them even on. So I always want to know what the spread is going to look like. So I never design an individual page. I always design 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what things are going to look like across.
And the page turn.
And what the page turn is going to be, what the rhythm is. Am I repeating faces? Like Joe just helped me this morning, where I realized I had 2 characters both looking up, kind of like an awe. And it was I just had repeated it, right? Like, and so we got rid of one, and then I redesigned that. So that's something that makes me crazy. It's that kind of repeated thing on pages. So anyway, so that is my process. And then when if I do pencils, of course, I pencil on board. If I'm inking, it's been Procreate has been very interesting. I've never really worked digitally, and there's been an enormous amount of experimentation, some of which have created beautiful results I will never be able to recreate because I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
I was just sort of doing something and it came out, and I was like, that's perfect. I'm going to leave it. Pardon me, but I could not tell you how I.
But that's the best, right?
Yeah.
That's the best. You're just coming out, and then something else will come out. That's the process of learning. It's gotta be so much fun because it's the new tool that you can play like a kid. Like, oh.
Well, also the learning I think is very exciting. What's exciting to me, even this stage, is like there's so much left to learn. Mike Choi, the artist, was talking about this on Instagram. And it's so funny. I remember working with him in the Marvel development program 15, 12 years ago. And where he has become as both an artist and a teacher, he's an artist I look at because he does what I can't do. Back then, I did what he couldn't do. And I love that. Like, it thrills me that he threw away all that stuff and is now has become a true artist in every possible wonderful, great sense of the word, and an amazing storyteller. And his growth also exponentially like blows my mind. He's another person who's amazing.
Okay.
But that's my process. Read a script, draw on paper, do pencils if I'm going to do pencils, scan them, and then ink digitally in an app, in this case, Procreate.
Okay, perfect. Log from Howard, is there any moment where you had to take one or several aspirins after reading the script for The Invisibles? How did you feel with that book?
Oh, the story I always tell, that Grant Morrison writes scripts that are actually very easy to follow. They might ask for crazy things, but the scripts are very basic. Page 1, panel 1. They're very so when I work with Grant, he's very easy. So again, even if what he's asking for is extraordinary or crazy, the scripts are so organized that it's not hard to draw.
Yeah, he makes your life very easy, even with crazy ideas. Yeah.
I was just saying though, I might have said this in our last conversation. I would love to go back to The Invisibles, knowing what I know now.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah. I hope it happens. We'll work together again. So I'm really hoping. Pedro de Mercader, how do you get in the mood or the essence of what you have to express in the most cryptic scripts?
In the most cryptic of scripts, like, well, my goal as an artist is always to take whatever script I have and do the best I can. Like, I'm not an artist that wants to subvert my writer. I want to make it the best. I feel like I've done that a couple times, and it is a dick move. Like, it's not cool. And certainly as I've gotten older, like my goal is not to undermine. It's to make the writer look great, right? So my goal with any script, no matter if it's difficult or cryptic or whatever, is just to make it look amazing. There are some that are easier than others. It's why I've done a lot less work in recent years, because I do think there are certain writers I get, and other writers I don't. And I don't, when I've worked on scripts that are labor, like, it's not fun for anybody.
Yes.
And so I took one job because I really wanted to work with a writer, and I would like to work with them on another job, because it was a time that I was not in a good headspace. I didn't get I really just didn't get the assignment. It was given to me because they're like, oh, he's good with this kind of stuff. And I just didn't get it. And I think it shows in the work. It's not great work. So my hope would be to work with him on something else that I understood more clearly.
Okay. How was it? I think you mentioned Warren already, but how was it to work with Warren Ellis in Astonishing X-Men? Thank you for your incredible art.
Oh, well, it's hilarious, because that was my third time working with Warren. And we were both, I mean, that was kind of career changing in not a good way, because we were both so late on that book. And part of that was just us just being jerks, not hitting deadlines. Part of it was halfway through, Marvel changed the villain. They said you could not have the villain. And I think it really derailed him, because we were just chugging along, and suddenly halfway through, and that's happened to me, where they've like, can you change the villain's motivation? I'm like, but that's all the story hinges on. And then they want, and part of our job, of course, is to do the job. But when halfway through you're through something, and then suddenly you're like, no, it can't be this. Like, what are you talking about? And that happened to Warren. And so, but I think he was 7 months late on that final script. And I was late. And it was weird. People like that story, and they love that art, and I'm so grateful. It was a weird time and weird experience. I remember also, I'd gone over to Marvel to work on Spider-Man, and as I'd signed my contract, I was going to do this big thing. Brand New Day happened, and it really took the wind out of my sails, because I'd gone over there to do one thing, and then they were putting me on the weekly book, and I didn't understand, this isn't what I signed up for. And so I was on Spider-Man for a brief time. I'm like, I can't do this. And then they put me on X-Men thinking, oh, this will be great. And then this, yeah. And then Warren and I got together, and again, we were slow, but I think I'd already kind of burned out because I was so sad about the Spider-Man project. And then they told Warren he couldn't have that villain, and it was just sort of like, It was the late, when was that? The late 2000s were not a good time.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, which writer, Martin Lozano asks, which writer you haven't worked with yet would you like to work with?
Great question. I've worked with so many. And the thing about it is I didn't know I wanted to work with Kelly Sue until I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wouldn't have occurred to me to like, oh, I'd like to work with Kelly Sue DeConnick. Then when we got this gig, I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the best writers I've ever worked with in 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that question is always hard because I feel like it will be someone I didn't know I wanted to work with until I worked with them.
Makes perfect sense. Okay. Geraldo Borges, your work is very, very detailed. How much time do you spend drawing a regular page? Congrats, love your work on Adventure Comics. I have a glorious sketch drawn by you.
I wish that book would have gone on longer. What takes me longer is research. Most people forget that, but for me, the thing that takes the most time, like with Historia, like I have 10,000 images for research or for inspiration. It's really not, although I will say the labor on that book takes a long time. I'm drawing this thing right now and it's taken me weeks of just like this. Because there's no way to trick it through. I can't.
Yes.
I have to draw everything. But pages can take me anywhere from 4 hours to 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Or like these spreads on Historia, most of them have taken me 2 weeks to a month, each of them. And that's working anywhere from about 4 to 14 hours, 5 days a week. Some days I only work a couple hours. Some days I work 14 hours.
Yeah. Arturo Lopez, hi Phil, just want you to know I love your work. You're a legend.
Oh, thank you.
And I think you already answered this. Arturo, here, I think you just came in. He asked, how is it to work with Grant Morrison?
It's great. I actually love working with Grant.
Mm-hmm.
It is not as crazy as you think.
No, it's not. Grant's an amazing man. And he's an amazing guy. He really is. He's not as crazy as you guys think. Just watch the show 45, I think it is, that I did with him, and you will realize he writes crazy stuff, but he's an amazing guy. He's not amazing. He's not crazy. I think Jill maybe would disagree with you with Jill Thompson, but that's her stories and Grant, which are crazy. And I don't know who's crazier of them both. How much time do you still have, or you have to leave already?
I am going to have to wrap up very soon.
Okay, so two things. One, Mario Lozano's wait, it's going fast. Dutch the Gay says Phil's run on JLA Titans is what got me back into comics.
That's great.
And that gives me the excuse to do this. Hang on for 5 seconds.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Wow, look at that. Oh my God. Wow.
This is the page you gave me the first time you were in Madrid. It's just still hanging.
That's so fun.
On the best part of my house, as you can see.
That is great. I would like to say the unsung hero of my career, of course, is Andy Lanning, who inked me for years and years and put up with me and was the professional part of our duo. And one of the things that really wrecked me was when he ended up leaving comics for a while to go work for another company, because he was my partner in crime and I didn't have another one for many, many years. It's why I often forget. I'm like, why did that not? Oh yeah, that's right, because Andy wasn't available, or like that was a real career changer for me, is to not have Andy around.
Yes, guys, of course, this is JLA Titans because Dutch, and that reminded me, I changed the order of that question because I wanted to leave it for the last moment.
Yes.
Pedro Mercaderas, who is the craziest guy in the industry?
The craziest?
Yeah, that's me.
David Macho, of course.
Yep. You really have to ask. That's me. No. And the last thing I have to mention, guys, because Phil has to leave. First, you have to invite the amazing gift, but the most amazing gift this guy has ever given me in my life. And just so you know, he's the most amazing guy in the fucking multiverse, not the universe, the fucking multiverse. He came all the way from New York to our wedding.
Oh, I was just
to be with us because he's the fucking best guy in the universe. What?
No, that was an amazing experience. And I still remember how good, I don't remember what you look like, but I remember how good your wife looked that day. She was so beautiful that day.
Yeah, because she's the most beautiful woman in the world.
This is true. She was amazing.
That's I gotta say that. Anyway, Phil needs to leave. We said 1 hour. Thank you so much for all your questions.
Thank you. I need to go eat and take care of my blood sugar.
Okay, so wait a second so I can say proper goodbye to you after we cut the feed. To all of you, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
With us tomorrow. Who is with us tomorrow? Yes, Albert Montes. Thank you all.
Oh, exciting.
Have a nice day. Off in